Welcome to another episode of The Latest with Maya. Today, I am very excited to be having a conversation with comedian Aaron Simmonds. Aaron, thank you so much for being on my show. I am
It's
so
my
excited
pleasure.
to be
Thank you.
talking with you.
Oh, same. It's gonna be fun, isn't it?
Yeah. Um, where do you find inspiration for your comedy? Is everything and everyone fair game?
So that's a really good question. I think everyone, for starters, is the easier place to start with that. So, like everyone is on the table, but I only talk about people if they're okay with me talking about them. I always ask permission to do so, particularly if it's not friends or family or partners or whatever. And usually I'll change their names and respect privacy and boundaries. If there's a random stranger who says something stupid to me, then I don't ask their permission. I don't go, oh, that was quite offensive. Can I talk about that and make you look like an idiot on stage? Because I don't think those people deserve that. But I will usually change a name or change a location or whatever. But in terms of everything, yeah, I think I think it just depends on why you want to talk about something. And I'm a big believer in that comedy should bring joy to people, and that's why we're here, right? Is to try and make people happier. And people pay their £10 or $10 or however much they pay for a comedy night. It's not to feel sadder by the end of the evening. So my job is to make them feel better than they did before. And I think there are some important topics that you can talk about in comedy, but it sort of depends on why you want to do that. And if you're telling jokes that are there's a phrase in comedy called punching down, where you're got power over somebody and yet you're still attacking them. So a heterosexual person attacking a gay person, for example, or whether it's race or social standing or whatever, if you're doing that, then and you're doing it because you want people to buy tickets to your show and you want to have a really nice life, then I would question whether that's a good thing to be talking about. But for me, there's no thing that I'm like, I definitely can't talk about this. I want to be able to talk about anything in a way that makes people feel happier, but I want to be able to talk about it in a way that makes me feel happier as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So is there someone who without fail always makes you laugh?
I mean, yes. If we're talking about other comedians, then there's loads. My particular favorite being James Acaster. I think he is the funniest person on the planet. If we're talking about people in my everyday life, then yeah, like friends and family. I think the people who have known you longest always make you laugh hardest, right? That's the reason why they've been in your life so long. And I think I tend to talk about relationships that I'm in. At the minute, I'm not in a relationship, so that does make it more tricky. But yeah, no, I genuinely think that the most of the people that I've known for a very long time can make me laugh from my gut, where you can't breathe because you're laughing so hard. And that's the kind of comedy that I want to try and replicate with stand up, whether it's those funny stories or those, that kind of feeling you have after sort of 2.5 hours of hanging out with someone, and you're like, right, we're finally getting to the juicy bit of the conversation. Let's do that. I kind of want to do that from minute one of my stand up. But I think if you had to make me pick one person in my life, which I know you're not doing, but I'm going to do it anyway, is my best friend John. I've known them since high school, and we are currently writing a sitcom together. And they are just so funny, and we have a very similar sense of humor. And so when writing, we have a similar sense of humor but different skill sets. So it's really useful for me to be like, oh, I think this would be funny, and they can then turn it into a paragraph that is articulate, which is really, really useful skill set.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Mm.
Yeah. So is there someone who inspired you to pursue comedy?
Yes. So there's a couple of different um, avenues that I went into doing comedy. So I didn't do any kind of performance before I started stand up. So I started stand up when I was 24, and I didn't do any acting. Didn't do any like I did school plays when I was like 8 or 9, but like I was always like the tree in the corner and all of those kind of things. I wasn't given any roles, but the the big thing for me was I was listening to a couple of podcasts about stand up, and I was sort of questioning it. And I was working as a personal trainer, and one of my clients, boyfriend at the time, did stand up, and he like I'd always loved stand up. And like at 16, I knew I wanted to do it, but I looked at the people on TV and went, I'm funny, I'm not that funny, without recognizing the fact that they had been doing it for 15 years and this was as funny as they could be for 7 minutes at a time. And so when I met Matt, he was funny, but he wasn't any funnier than I was. And he said that I should give stand up a go. And yeah, I did. Him and the my client and her sister came along to my third ever gig. And then her sister became my girlfriend for 2 years. Um, so yeah, it's sort of really weird that it's also intertwined. Um, oh, there was a period of 7 years where I didn't talk to the sister, and then she became my girlfriend for 2 years. So it's sort of mad how that all came together. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So what motivates you every day?
Well, comedy is my full-time job. So if I don't gig, I don't eat, and I really like food. Food is good.
Yeah.
Food's a really good motivator. Um, but like I just think in general, like I've always been a very driven person, right? I attribute a lot of that to being disabled. I don't know if any of your viewers can tell this from this conversation, but I have cerebral palsy. I have since birth, and so yeah, it's always been a very sort of. I've always been driven by having my own independence and not wanting to be bogged down by needing someone to open doors for me or anything like that. And I've always found that, you know, my ambition is driven is something that's quite innate within me, but it's not an ambition to be like, I want to be on this TV show or this TV show. Like I want to be autonomous. I want to be able to choose when I gig, why I gig, who I gig for. And I think that kind of ambition is much more important because that you have complete control over. And so for me, it's I'm motivated by experience. So the idea of doing a TV show, like I've done TV shows, they're very fun. I like doing them. I'm not saying don't book me for TV shows. Any TV producers out there, I'm happy to come on your show. But like I'm much more interested in the idea of performing like a tour, or like where people have come out because they know they're coming to see me. Because at the minute, most of what I do is in comedy clubs. So people have paid to go see comedy, and I have to spend the first sort of 5-10 minutes of my set showing that proving to the audience that I can be funny, rather than going into a room where people have paid to come see me, and I can go, okay, so what do I want to talk about? What is it that I find interesting this year? What am I gonna write about this? Am I gonna write about that? And so that's sort of the thing that's really motivating me currently, is to think about the shows that I want to write, for the people that I want to write, and for the person that I want to be. So because the thing that all shapes, they all sort of come together as one, and that's how you work out what you want to talk about and what you want to do.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. So what do you wish people better understood about you?
I mean, there's plenty that I wish I understood about me in terms of how my brain works and all of that kind of stuff. Therapy's really good. Highly recommend that if we're just throwing out things that are good. I don't know. I think I'm very lucky in the terms of like where I'm very capable as a disabled man to like I can walk a little bit, I can get up a flight of stairs if I need to, and all of this kind of stuff. I think if I was to say like to answer as what do I wish that people understood about the disability community a bit more, I would probably suggest that that it's not binary. It's not a case of you're either in a wheelchair or you're fully able-bodied, and every single disabled person will have different requirements or capabilities or anything like that. And so, if you're trying to help someone or you're trying to support someone who has a disability, then it needs to be on an individual basis, right? It needs to be tailored to their needs, and there's no one size fits all approach. And if you knew a disabled person 5-6 years ago, doesn't mean if you meet another person that's got a disability that you're going to know how to treat that person. You need to treat them as an individual in terms of, I mean, that's what you should do with all people, really. But yeah, in terms of that, it's probably the biggest thing that I'd want people to understand a bit more about me. But I think the other thing I'd like them to understand is where they can buy tickets for my next tour. And that's a more personal thing than a general population.
Yeah. Well, if you come to Denver, I will definitely buy tickets. So
Okay. Well, it's a long way to go, but it's good to know that I've already sold a ticket. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to come to Denver. Why not?
Yeah.
It's going to be a long time before I get to the States, but if I come to the States, I will make sure I come to Denver.
Oh, yay. So of all that you have accomplished so far, is there something you are most proud of?
Interesting question. I think there's two parts to that, really, when you think about it, where it's the achievement in and of itself, or how you cope with a situation. Like, for example, there was a TV show that I was on in the UK called the Russell Howard Hour, and it was my first time doing stand-up on TV, and it did not go the way I was expecting it to go, and the way I had practiced it 100 times, where I basically, if you haven't seen the clip, or any of your viewers haven't seen the clip, I usually ask someone in the front row what their favorite disability is, and I try and pick out just the whitest man that I can find. And when I picked out this guy, it turns out he was blind, and he lifted up his walking stick, and it was unbelievable that would happen. And all the times that I've done that joke, that's the only time that's ever happened. And the way I handled that and the way it sort of turned out, I was really, really pleased about. And but when I think of the things I'm proudest of in terms of my career, it's not the fact that I got given a TV show. It's the fact that this is my full-time job. And I went from a guy who was just doing 5 minutes below a pub to 10 people, or who nine of which were performing that night, to being able to make enough money at this that I could quit my job and that I could get through COVID without having to go back into a real job, and all of that kind of stuff. And then, when you write a show and people come back this, so I do the Edinburgh Festival every year, and there's one woman who came to see me on my first show in 2019. She then came to see me in my second show in 2022, and both times it was her birthday. It's her birthday treat to come see me. And then in 2023, I was waiting all month. I couldn't remember what day her birthday was. And then she turned up and I was like, it's your birthday today. And she was like, yeah, you remember? I went, of course I remember. Like the fact that someone would spend their birthday with me as their birthday present, like those kind of things, you can't put any kind of like metric on terms of how that what that can mean to somebody and how that makes a big difference to their life. And yeah, those kind of things really, really do make a difference. And yeah, I am that was the thing that sort of really blew me away. Yeah, this Edinburgh when she came back.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So if you had a reality TV show about your life, what would your theme song be?
Well, I mean that's a great question. I think it would be a terrible reality show. I mean, I do a lot of nothing. Like I work 20 minutes a day, and the rest of it I'm basically just on YouTube. I mean, I've been watching a lot of wrestling recently, so I would like a good theme tune. For okay, let's just go with Stone Cold Steve Austin's entrance music, where the glass shatters and then the crowd goes mad. I think I'll go with that. It's dramatic enough for that. Or actually, no, scrap that. Walk This Way by Run DMC and Aerosmith. There we go.
Oh, I love that.
It's a great song and it's a very funny theme tune for a guy with cerebral palsy.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have any irrational fears?
Yes. I have one. It is parking tickets. Now, you might not think, oh, that's no one likes parking tickets, but like it causes me like genuine anxiety when I see a parking ticket. But here's how irrational the fear is. It doesn't even need to be on my car. If I see a car with a parking ticket, like all the blood rushes from my body and like my blood sugar dips and I genuinely need to go get like some sugar in me as soon as possible. Otherwise I'll get dizzy and dehydrated and all the rest of it. Because yeah, it's such a innate reaction to seeing it.
Oh. So
And
I
before we get comments in, all right, disabled people still do get parking tickets. Okay, it's not if you use your blue badge incorrectly, you get a ticket. All right, so it is a thing.
yeah.
Are they blue badges in America? I don't know. Disabled badges.
Yeah. Yeah, we have the handicap placards and
Right. Okay.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So I am pop culture obsessed, and I go in stages of shows that I cannot stop watching. What show are you currently obsessed with?
Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Like as soon as you started this question, I was like, I know what my answer is. I think it's one of the best things I've watched in years. Like in terms of like a sitcom. So I mentioned that I'm writing a sitcom, and like it's heavily influenced by Ted Lasso. It's exactly like the kind of show that I would want to write. And yeah, I just think it was so well done. The balance between comedy and drama and heart and joy, and it's there to make you happy. You know, the amount of like people that I know that spend their whole days watching like serial killer documentaries and like fair play to them. Like I understand that they have you know, that people like it and all that kind of stuff, but like that kind of stuff just makes me sad, and I just want to watch some happy TV show that like and it genuinely calms me down whenever I'm sort of feeling anxious. I put on Ted Lasso, and I'm on a flight 6 months ago, and there's a lot of turbulence, and I was getting a bit anxious, and I put on I saw that they had Ted Lasso on the plane. I was like, well, I'm going to watch this, and I was absolutely fine for the rest of the flight. Having said that, it's my second favorite TV show of all time after Taskmaster, which is my ultimate goal and ambition. So that's something that I would like to do in my career. And if I am able to do it at some point, I can retire a very happy man. I'm not going to retire as soon as I do Taskmaster, but I could retire as soon as I do Taskmaster.
I love that. Yeah, I love Ted Lasso.
So, right.
Yeah.
If you could be any character in Ted Lasso, which character would you be?
Oh, that's hard.
Oh,
I don't know. I love Keely. I think she
okay.
is awesome. So,
Mm,
and yeah, and in the later seasons, yeah, there's something that she does that just I think is amazing. And so I
yeah.
think Keely. What
Okay.
about you?
We'll talk about what that is after the interview, so we don't spoil
Yeah.
it, because I want to know what your thoughts on that are.
Okay. Yeah.
I would love to be either Rebecca or Sam, which is weird,
Yeah.
because of potential spoiler reasons, which I won't go into. But I love Rebecca. I think she's
Yeah.
wicked. And when I grow up, I want to be Hannah Waddington, because I think she's just the best.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't decide between Keely and Rebecca. So I think
Yeah.
either of them I think they're
Right.
awesome.
Well, if you be Keely, I'll be Rebecca, and then we
Yeah.
can be best friends forever. There we go. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so what small things bring you joy on a daily basis?
Apart from Dead Lasso and Taskmaster. Um, I mean, so on a real small thing, I used to be gluten intolerant and dairy intolerant, and I can now eat both of those things. So whenever I get to eat pizza, I am literally overjoyed. Like, it is the greatest. Like, every time I have a pizza, I think my life cannot get better than this moment. Um, yeah, food is a constant joy for me. I mean, I I tend to be thinking about comedy a lot of the time, and so I, the biggest thing for me is the fact that there is I can take something that happens from my life, think about it for a little bit, and then tell it to a room full of 100 people, and that makes their life, like, that day better. That's mad. Like, that's just mad that that happens on a. I get to do that 5 nights a week. That's really, really special sometimes, to when you sort of stop and reflect on it for even half a second whilst in the middle of an interview. So yeah, I would say either the fact that I get to do stand-up comedy, or pizza. And when I get to do stand-up comedy and then have a pizza, it's a pretty good day.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. So who has had the biggest impact on the person you have become?
Oh, what a question. I mean, my therapist has put in a lot of hard work. Like, she's been there for a long old time, so she deserves some credit. Um, I would say this is going to sound weird, but stick with me. Either my last girlfriend or my first girlfriend, and they are different people. I need to point that out. But like, I in my last relationship, I changed a lot, and I realized what I wanted in life, and I owe her a great amount of gratitude for that. But my first relationship, it sort of taught me a huge amount about myself, and we are still friends. Like, she actually lives in America, so we got together like 9 years ago now. And then she was only over here for about 18 months, and we've been friends ever since. Even though we only see each other very sporadically, because we're on the other side of the world from each other. But I don't think if I didn't have that relationship at that point, I would have been a very different person than I am now. Yeah, I'd say that either those two people.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So I love inspiring and motivational quotes. And
Mhm.
this week, my favorite quote is by Lady Gaga.
Right.
And it says, "Do not allow people to dim your shine because they are blinded. Tell them to put some sunglasses on."
Right.
Yeah. Is there a quotation that has inspired you lately?
So one quick question before I answer this.
Yeah.
Can I swear on this show?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I've been thinking about this for like the last 20 minutes. We're like, better not swear, just to be on the safe side. But no. So
Well, I
uh,
appreciate it.
yeah. So the big thing I've been thinking about recently is the I was thinking about getting a tattoo that said "fuck regrets," because in my last show I talk about not wanting to get a tattoo because I'm scared of the regret, and so that's been sort of my main motto for the last sort of 2 months or so. It's just been like, fuck that. Like, I'm not going to live my life by what can go wrong. I'm going to live my life by what can go right. And I think the quote that probably means the most to me generally is "What's the greatest fear?" And it's from I first heard it in Coach Carter, the Samuel L. Jackson basketball biopic. But it's from a poem, and I don't think Nelson Mandela wrote it, but I think he quoted it when he came out of prison. But it's what is your greatest fear? And our greatest fear is not that we are weak, but we are powerful beyond belief. And it's our strength that scares us, and but it shouldn't be. And the fact that when we shine, it gives people the opportunity to shine too. And yeah, I think about that quite a lot actually. And because it's funny because one of the things I realized um, in therapy. This is going to get real deep real quick. I'll do the short version. I was causing a lot of chaos in my life and a lot of negativity I was creating for myself, and part of that was because I was really struggling with this idea of being successful, and I didn't really know how to process that. And because when I was successful and like 18, 19, I was a twat about it. You don't have that phrase in America, that sentiment. I was a dick about it. And and I was one of the things that I've learned to maximize my own mental well-being is that like I can be successful and not be a dickhead about it, and but also when friends are struggling, my initial impulse is to say that because misery loves company, right? So if one of your friends is having a bad time, you create yourself a bad time so you can be sad together. Whereas I am now sufficiently capable as a comic and B, a human being, that if someone's struggling, I can be like, how can we make this better? How can we bring you up rather than bring me down? And so whether that's changing part of their show or going through the problems that they're going through or talking it out or whatever it is, what they're going through, I now focus on bringing other people up rather than bringing myself down. And so, yeah, I think that quote's got quite a lot to do with that.
Oh, I love that.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that was my last question for you. It
Great.
it has been so much fun talking with you, and I just really appreciate your taking the time to join me today. So thank you.
You are more than welcome. It's been super fun. Yeah, very happy.
Yeah. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Um,
Thank you very much. It's almost over here. It's 10 a.m. where you are. It's 20 to 6 here.
Oh, I
I'm gonna have
always
some dinner.
forget the time difference.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Uh,
there we go. Cool.
yeah. And that's a wrap on today's edition of The Latest with Maya.